Hello, everyone, and welcome to CareersTalk. I'm Suran Sharma, an Agile consultant based in Netherlands, and today I'm super excited to introduce Mehdi Hoseini, a professional Scrum trainer by profession. So this is the second part of the series with Mehdi, and I will share the link to the first part in the comment section and the pinned comment so you can watch it later. So in today's session, we will cover some scenario-based, behavioral-based, and some advanced level interview questions shared by our WhatsApp group member who have faced interviews at various IT companies. But friends, before we begin, make sure to subscribe for more informative session. And if you find this session valuable, don't forget to smash that like button. So without further delay, let's dive in. Welcome, Mandy, one more time. Mandy, how are you feeling today?
Yeah, Sonan. Yeah, good afternoon. I'm happy that I'm here again for the second time. And so let's have a wonderful discussion today.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you allow, shall we start?
Please.
Okay. So the very first one is, so a team decide to increase their sprint length from 30 days to 2 months. So, what are the most likely consequences of this particular decision from Scrum perspective?
That's a good one. We know by definition the maximum length of a sprint is 1 month. Okay, why we have this limit? Because we know that every single iteration or a sprint is a learning loop and risk management mechanism. So if we go for a longer, sprint duration, it means that we accept a higher level of risk. Imagine if you are in the wrong direction. So after 1 month, the maximum amount of time for each sprint, you have to create something usable and deliver it to your stakeholders to get feedback and verify if you are in the right direction or not. Whenever you extend your sprint to 2 months, in fact, imagine if you are in the wrong direction, after 2 months, you will be aware that you are in the wrong direction, and it's really dangerous. So instead of thinking of, having longer time of a sprint, let's see how much risk we have in our, environment and see if we are in the wrong direction, how much cost we have to pay if we don't verify our direction. Yeah.
Wonderful, Mehdi. Yeah, thank you for that. Great.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move on to our next question. So let's
Mhm.
say a product owner feel unsure about the value their product will offer to the end user. So what advice would you give them to address this uncertainty as a Scrum Master?
Uh-huh. The product owner is unsure. Okay.
He's new, maybe he just joined the organization.
Yeah, yeah, it is possible. Guys, let's check or dissect the process that we have in Scrum. We know that we collaborate, I mean product owner and developers, to refine product backlog prior the sprint that they want to implement some PBIs and features. Okay. So whenever they have this process, it means that they have opportunity to discuss and collaborate and understand each other better. And then it is the product owner responsibility to change the order of the PBIs in the product backlog to make sure that the team works on the most important items first, right?
Mhm.
So again, it is another mechanism that we are aligned together. Again, by we, I mean product owner and developers. And then in the sprint planning, again, we have the last minute, opportunity to discuss, to collaborate, product owner and developers. And then developers will select PBIs from top of the product backlog until they say we are full for this sprint. And of course, they create the sprint goal, which is the ultimate state of the sprint together. A sprint goal is not created only by developers. It is a collaborative work between product owner, developers, and a scrum master. So the one question is here, why our product owner is unsure about creating value because he was involved in this process. Maybe there is a problem regarding the level of collaboration they have. Maybe they don't have, that effective collaboration. One more thing, we know that the Scrum team is a self-managing team and they behave based on the Scrum values foundation. We need to trust each other. Whenever by that funnel, developers select some PBAs for the sprint, we need to trust them. Why? Because they are capable, they know the most about how they want to implement PBIs. So, why we have a trigger in our mind as a product owner that we are unsure about the value that the created increment can deliver to our stakeholders. At the end of the day, everything that we pick from the product backlog is an assumption. No one knows the exact answer and solution for those PBIs. So fundamentally, they are assumptions, and we create them or we convert them from idea to something usable to be able to deliver them to our stakeholders to get feedback and then verify if that assumption was right or not. So failure is part of the work. Failure is not against the success. It is part of the success. It's like fail, 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 boom, success. You should be willing to fail. Otherwise, you will not create, valuable things. So again, here, I will say, hey, product owner, do you trust them or not? If the answer is yes, okay, I will invite him to be patient because the time frame of the sprint is not that long. We can wait and see what would be the result of the sprint. One more thing, if our product owner says, no, I don't trust them, it's another, signal that we can discuss them collaboratively and transparently. For example, in our retrospective, hey guys, there is a problem here that our product owner doesn't trust developers. Is there anything specific that we have this vibe in our mind or not? We need to be completely open to discuss these things. We need to be courageous to bring these topics to the sprint retrospective to discuss. Otherwise, they are hidden problems that we just cover them, but they are working against us, you know? So if I wanted to wrap up this answer to your question, I can say, hey guys, be open to talk about it ruthlessly and see why these feelings are inside the environment of our Scrum team. And if you see any problem, be courageous to roll up your sleeves, okay, and resolve it. That's it. It was my answer.
Absolutely. Great. Though I just want to add a small thing over here. Maybe,
Yeah,
if yeah, I mean, maybe we can advise our product owner to take a like a customer centric approach to validate and refine the product values, as you also mentioned. So maybe
yeah.
if we can build a simplified version of the product, like a MVP kind of thing. So this may allow us to test the product in a real world environment, things like that. And maybe he will also engage more with the end users to conduct surveys, interviews, or maybe have some focus group to understand their needs, their pain points, and some desired outcomes. So we can also go with him in these kind of discussions.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
think
But always product owner has this call because he is the person who makes the decision when we want to release our work to the market. And we know that the intention behind each sprint is to create something usable, which is really
absolutely
usable by the end user. So if our product owner thinks now we need to verify if we are in the right direction or not, I make a decision to release it now. That's okay. Do it.
correct. And That's a kind of question which I have. Your third question is that only. So let's say your team is pressured to release a product in 2 months, but then product owner feels that it's premature. So how would you support the product owner and manage this kind of situation where your team is thinking that it's okay to release, but then your product owner feels still is not ready.
Yeah, to be
It's
honest,
like a tricky one, but yeah.
yeah, to be honest, I see this problem with two angles. The first one from the developer angle. You know, let's ask developers, hey guys, why you are creating something that is not that mature? Because we know
Correct.
that every single PBI that we take and select from product backlog, our intention should be creating a completely quality PBI at the end of the sprint. We don't want to sacrifice the quality. We shouldn't, in fact. This is the rule. So why we say it's not that mature? Okay, this is from the developer and developers angle, and another angle is from product owner angle. Why our product owner is thinking that, for example, 2 months is, you know, too early. 2 months is not, a small amount of time. You can create something valuable and release it to the market to get their feedback. You don't need to create a comprehensive market and then say our product is now mature, then we can, release it to the market. So it is this way of thinking is coming from the traditional way of thinking, waterfall model. Because in waterfall model, we used to release our work at the end of the project when it was completely late and we didn't have that time to have meaningful adjustments. So postponing releases generally, I'm just saying generally, postponing releases to the future is fundamentally dangerous. Okay, but maybe our product owner has some reasons. Let's discuss them inside the team. Maybe he said there is a trend in the market. This is the best time that we can release our work to the market and these things. If there are strong reasons behind not releasing earlier, that's okay. But if there isn't, we need to release our work early and often. And if we say it's not that mature, okay, let's shrink the scope. You mentioned in the previous question MVP. MVP is a shrink of the scope to stick to the core features of the product. In fact, to stick to the to the riskiest assumptions that you want to test first. So make a decision and focus on the riskiest items first, and then you will see that you can release your work early and often. Yeah, it was my
Correct.
answer.
Correct. So my perspective is maybe like there is a need to balance the business need and the
Yeah, yeah,
user value. So the
definitely.
PO must weight the market pressure against the need to deliver a product that genuinely solve the user problem. So if maybe like I was thinking, if we rushed, maybe the product might not meet the user expectation, and that can lead to a negative feedback, so which is again not a good thing for our product. And I guess like maybe a PO should revisit the product vision. Maybe you have to ensure that every feature aligned with delivering the maximum value. So maybe he might involved in reprioritizing the backlog to focus on the critical and the high impact item, right? And maybe you can also think about maybe phased rollout approach or a MVP approach. So PO can maybe negotiate a kind of timeline that balance the business pressure with the need for a quality product. And of course, he has to clearly communicate the risk of an early release, maybe a user dissatisfaction, or maybe a increased support issues, or maybe a damage to the brand reputation. So there are many, right? To the stakeholder, to the management, and everyone who is involved. So I think these are the things, because at the end, it's the product owner who is the ultimately, the decision owner, right? So I
Yeah,
think,
yeah,
or maybe he can
definitely.
also give some fact based, or data based, maybe some market research or some user feedback or some performance matrices that PO can build, his case, that why he's delaying the release, that might be beneficial for the product's long term success. So maybe,
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
something just want to add.
Sunan, let me tell you something else here. I'm a big fan of continuous release. I
Mhm.
don't want to hide it, because whenever you finish one PBI, in fact, you implement it. Why do you want to keep it in your inventory?
Correct.
You just achieve the value when you put it in the hand of your customers. Before
Correct.
that, you haven't created any value. You just increase the inventory that you have in your stock. That's it. But sometimes, as you mentioned, we need to have a balance here. Sometimes you cannot release your work every day. For example, let's say you are developing an application, and every day you send a message on the cell phone of your customers, hey, you not to you now need to update your application. So it's completely boring for them. And in fact, it's dangerous because they say, that's a bad application. Every day they push us, to update it. Yes. And because of that, we need to think of it. We need to have a balance for our release. And I agree. But if you don't have these limits, I am completely with continuous release. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, I think let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so should a scrum master remove impediments on behalf of a scrum team? And how would you approach this responsibility? Like most of the time people, yeah, like quote that, okay, scrum master is an impediment remover, but do you think that ideally scrum master should do that quite
Yeah.
often, or what's your
Yeah,
take?
let me explain it. It's a deep, conversation. We talk about it in a PSM advanced class, usually. First of all, let's create a, definition of impediment.
Hmm.
Every issue is not an impediment.
Not absolutely.
Okay. So there is a definition, a specific definition for impediment. Imagine there is an issue or barrier that prevents the people to achieve their sprint goal. Oh, okay. Now it can be called an impediment. But generally, we say, hey guys, whenever you see that there is an issue, that the team already started working on it, but they couldn't resolve it because they didn't have enough authority or enough resources or the power to make decision, then it will be converted to an impediment. So here, when you want to resolve that one, absolutely you need to ask for help. And most of the time, you need to ask for help. If you go to the Scrum guide, there is a specific keyword that one in that sentence saying for a Scrum Master, causing the removal of impediment. It doesn't say removal of impediment. There is a specific keyword at the beginning of that sentence, causing the removal of impediment. Why do we have that specific keyword? Because whenever an issue is an impediment, probably it comes from the wider organization level. There are some process in the organization level that works against the Scrum team. So if you want to resolve it, you need to ask for help and invite people from the organization to collaborate together to be able to resolve that impediment. So here it is said the Scrum Master should trigger a thread to and invite people to work together to be able to resolve it. And throughout the way, the Scrum Master will follow up the process to make sure that one day in the future the impediment will be resolved. And because of that, it is said a Scrum Master causes a threat of working on a single impediment. So, although it is possible, sometimes it can be a small impediment, the Scrum Master can resolve it by themselves, but usually it's not a one-man work. It is a teamwork, a group work. Practically, I usually, for example, in the previous company that I used to work, we used to use Microsoft Teams, okay? And whenever we got an impediment, I immediately created a focused group and invited all the people from the wider organization who had, words to help us. And then I announced the impediment and asked them to start, working together to resolve it. It was simple, but completely powerful and effective. So, yes, it is possible that a Scrum Master can resolve the impediments, but usually it's not a one-man work. I'm done.
Thank you, Mehdi. Yes,
Mhm.
wonderful. Okay, let me check the next one. Yes. Okay, so the next one is your team is continuously fails to meet the forecast and the sprint goal, and it's a like volatile velocity is there. So, what are the probable cause or reasons, and how you are going to address this with the team? And this is like I think is most asked question. It will came again and again and again in multiple interviews. I have seen this question. Yeah.
The first step is to understand the context. For example, now you have just given me two sentences of that context. It's not enough. So be open to understand the situation, okay? And then there are two powerful questions that at the end of each sprint you can ask the Scrum team. First, have we created a usable increment or not? And second, have we met our sprint goal or not? Answers of to those questions are great signals if you are in a good place or not. Imagine you get two no's for several sprints. So it's a, a strong signal that there is a problem here. And as you mentioned, um, they get, various numbers of velocity. I don't want to talk about velocity, but when you don't get two yeses for two questions, for those two questions, so naturally, probably you will see those different numbers of velocity. Okay, so open it, discuss it, and see what happens. For example, one of the problems that I usually see is that we don't have effective product backlog refinement. Sometimes Scrum teams, ignore having product backlog refinement, which is terrible from my point of view and based on my experience. If you have good refinement, in fact, you will be on the same page with other team members. And in fact, developers will get a good level of understanding about every single PBIs that they want to select for the next sprint. Without having that effective refinement, imagine they select those PBIs and throughout the sprint, within the sprint, they will get aware of the uncertainties and complexities of those PBIs. So what should they do? Nothing. They can just focus on that single PBI and they will lose the opportunity and time to work on other selected PBIs for the current sprint. And the result would be, hey guys, we didn't have a good velocity. We couldn't create a done increment, and even we couldn't achieve our sprint goal. So one of the reasons that I experienced a lot is not having an effective product backlog refinement. And there are some other reasons as well. As I mentioned, we need to discuss them. For example, we don't have good, collaboration between product owner, developers, and of course, understanding the stakeholders' need and requirements. Probably it can be, a space that our product owner doesn't have a good connection with our stakeholders. So down the line, down the road, we will see these problems that we couldn't create done increment and we couldn't, meet our sprint goal.
Wonderful. Great.
Mm.
Just to sum up quickly,
Yeah.
in my experience, of course, there are
Uh-huh.
several factors that can contribute to inconsistent forecast and velocity. I'm again not a big fan of velocity, but
Yeah.
I think the five reasons which I can just tell very quickly, it's
Mhm.
maybe the team. When we say estimation, maybe the team may underestimate the task complexity, or they sometimes they overcommit during the sprint planning, which is lead to a unachievable sprint goals somehow. So I think that's the very first reason. Other reason is sometimes the user story itself are very vague or unclear. So
Yeah.
if you have a poorly defined backlog items, of course they are going to create a confusion, and of course they will slow down the progress of your team members. Third reason is, as you mentioned, changing priorities. So, or there is scope creep, so the unplanned work or their priorities are shifting. There's some external interruption. There is some disruption here and there. Of course, that can lead to a drop in a velocity for sure. And if there is a lack of consistent process, or let's say a definition of done, so without a shared understanding of what done mean, or there is some stable process, if not there, of course that work completion may vary here and there for sure. And the last and important one is, as you mentioned, the team dynamics, the communication, the external dependencies. So that can of course lead to all these fluctuations and issues, like if you have a technical debt or dependencies on some other teams or systems, then of course they are going to create a variability. And of course there are remediation things which we can do about it, but then I think then this session will be long. So
Yeah.
let's not go over there. Maybe in a different session we can cover that. Great, let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you assess the value of a work, of any work item, using matrices? So again, I'm not big fan of matrices, but what do you think, what are the important matrices which we should have in order to monitor or assess the value of a work?
Metrics. You mentioned metrics, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's be honest here, Sunan. The definition of value is fundamentally difficult. Okay. Uh,
That's why it's a difficult question. It's not an easy thing that okay,
yeah,
um, ROI blah 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 something. No, that's why this is a difficult question, and that's why I want you to answer it, because
yeah,
value is different. Value proposition is different.
definitely. For example, whenever you want to understand the value, you need to put yourself in the shoe of your customer. That would be great if you could even live with them for one day or maybe more days to understand their, work. Uh, Let me give you an example. Whenever we are developing software, let's say we want to have a, I don't know, payment gateway that people can, pay they orders on online shops, on these things. Whenever we are developing, we just think of it as a single task that our potential customer will do. But in reality, our customer doesn't just focus on that single task. In fact, they are in a context. Maybe they have their email open, they have their WhatsApp open, they have their Telegram, and these things, and many other things. And within that context, they want, to pay for something through our payment gateway. Let's say they are doing this one, the payment, but in the middle of the payment, they got an email or I don't know, a message on WhatsApp, and all of a sudden they switch their context to read that email, or to, answer that message on WhatsApp. And it would be a little bit time consuming for them, as an example. And whenever they go back to that payment gateway, they see that the session is expired. Yes, that's a bad experience for that customer, you see. So we need to understand our product, in which context it will be used. And based on that, we try to define our value. They wanted to have a streamlined and simplified process of payment. But they saw, for example, they just left that process for 5 minutes, and then when they went back, they saw the session was expired, and they need again to add all those fields and start the process again. It is a bad experience to our customer. So here, that customer probably will not see that high level of value. Let's be honest. But if you understand it, probably you will manage this expiration, duration of the session. It's just a simple example. I want to share to say that, hey guys, value is defined within context, not purely. And if you want to understand it, you need to live with your potential customer. And then let's go back to your question. There are some metrics that you can use, and I strongly recommend that you use metrics that come from the outcome, not output. Okay. Output is something that you create, but you don't know it can help to change the life or to improve the life of your customer or not. But outcome means your customer has benefited from that things that you have given them. For example, just as a simple example, if you send a survey for NPS, Net Promoter Score, you will get a good understanding of how your potential customers perceive your work. Has it created value for them or not? If they give you 9 and 10, it's a good signal that you have created, something valuable. But if they don't give you that higher number, let's say they just gave you 6, 5, I don't know, something like this, it's a big signal that you're in a wrong way. It doesn't matter how quality your features or how much time you have spent to create those features. And these are the tricks that if you just focus on outputs, you will be just a feature factory. You create a lot of things, deliver to the market, but you don't know how they are impacting your market. So focus on measuring metrics that come from the outcome side, not output side. And of course, if you can measure it with the level of impact that they have on the life of customers, that would be awesome. Awesome. So I cannot give you a single, predefined metric for that one because it is completely context based. You should be creative, but the rule is that you should focus on outcome and impact. I'm done.
Wonderful. Just to add, so you mentioned about outcome based matrices, customer centric matrices, like there are
Yeah.
many names, so CSAT or NPS, or let's say customer retention or the churn rate. So this is what you have mentioned. I just want to add very quickly, like there are few other matrices which for example, there are business impact matrices. So when we say revenue impact, so maybe we can measure whether the this vertical work item, whether it lead to increased sales or the conversation, or let's say new customer acquisitions, things like that, and whether this particular it's helping reducing operational cost or improve efficiencies or cost saving matrices. Maybe with respect to product users matrices, so what are the adoption rate for this, how many users engage with this new functionality, or maybe users frequency, so maybe like we can track how often user interact with this deliver work items and things like that. So that's the few more matrices which we can add over here, because we also know that the our excel sheet, right? So it's been said that only 20% of the features is being used by 80% of the people around the world. That's say
Mhm.
Pareto principle 2080, and
Mm.
it's happened with all the features, all the product, all the projects which we create into the market. So yes, that's something which just quickly want to add. And of course there are all OKRs and lead time, cycle time, defect, blah blah blah. Let's not get over there. So wonderful, thank you, Mandy. And now we came to the last question of the day, which is
Mhm.
again most asked question. So let's say you are recently joined a company that is that company is into a mid of a transitioning from a traditional waterfall to a agile product development, and the project team have several stakeholders, and of course they are working in this waterfall environment from years and years, and they are unfamiliar with the agile practices, and that's causing the resistance. So there are meetings which are very tense, and then heat based, and then arguments are there, and the decision making is slow, and there is a general doubt about benefit of adopting an agile way of working. So you as a coach, you as a scrum master, you as a agile leader, how you are going to approach promoting an agile mindset among the project teams who are willing to work on it, and there are few resistant stakeholders. So how do you are going to work along with this kind of chaos which is happening? I'm sure like
Yeah.
you might have faced similar kind of challenges.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
what challenges you have faced and how you will make it happen? So that's the question, last question of
Yeah,
the day.
sure. That's an interesting question. Just for your information, I experienced both worlds, waterfall and agile world. And uh, just for your information, information of the audience of this podcast, it was 2013 that I used to work on developing software for oil and gas sector, and we used to use waterfall model. At the end of the day, I myself lost $100,000 just because of the process that we had. At that time, I was not aware of Agile and Scrum. It was 2013 at that time. And it was the reason that I got familiar after that with Agile and Scrum. And since then, I have been working in Agile environment, and I completely know the difference between these two approaches. So you asked me how we can show it to our stakeholders or some managers who are, reluctant or have resistance to accept this new idea. By definition, agility is the ability of an organization to rapidly and consciously adapt to the changes. Okay? Rapidly and consciously to adapt to the changes. This is the core of agility. Now, if you just talk with theory things, they don't accept it, guys, because there are bunch of theory concepts out there. You need to show them. You need to make it tangible for your stakeholders. I will show them with an interesting example to understand it. Imagine you want to drive your car and you want to use waterfall model or plan driven approach to drive your car. Tomorrow morning, you want to drive to your office and you want to be there at 8:30. Tonight, you say, hey guys, I want to create a Gantt chart, okay, and have a comprehensive plan for my driving tomorrow. Okay, you say, at 8 o'clock, I start my car. Then I will put gear one for the first 100 meters, then gear two for the next 500 meters, next 1 kilometer, gear three, and then gear four for 10 kilometers. And then I will slow down and I will be at office right at 8:30. Okay, that's cool. So tomorrow morning, you wake up and you take a print of that Gantt chart and put it on the dashboard of your car, and you say, I will follow up that Gantt chart exactly what it says, and I will follow it. Okay. So you start your car, and based on the plan, you put your car in gear one for the first 100 meters. And then the Gantt chart says you need now to go to gear two for the next 500 meters. But at that time, there is a junction really 100 meters after your house, and you see that there are a lot of traffics. Oh, if you just follow that plan, what will happen? Probably you would either kill yourself or others, right? If you don't care of your surroundings, what's going on the street, and these things. So let's think of it differently. How do we drive our car? Okay, we don't create a Gantt chart one night before our trip. You just inspect your, environment and adapt it just in time. But still, you have a safe driving. For example, tomorrow morning you want to drive to your office. So you start your car, put it on gear one, you go until you arrive that junction. You slow down and check right hand side to see if there is any other car, bicycles, pedestrians, and these things. And if they are not these things, you will check the left hand side for the same thing, and when you feel safe, you will put your foot on the gas and slowly pass that junction. With this just in time inspection and adaptation, which is like a dance, you will finally be at the office at the expected time. Does it mean as today you have checked right hand side and left hand side on that junction, you don't need to check it tomorrow? Absolutely not. Tomorrow, that junction has another specification. Every day you need to check right hand side and left hand side. And this is the real meaning of agility. So imagine there are a lot of changes in the market. Every day you see the emergence of new technologies, new demands, new disruption in your industry. So what will happen if you close your eyes to those changes? The natural result is that you will either kill yourself or others, like driving the car based on a plan-driven approach. With this, where you make it tangible to your stakeholders and manager, and then they will start thinking differently. I'm done.
Thank you, Mehdi, for that elaborated answer and that analogy which you have used. Wonderful.
My
So
pleasure.
I think with this we came to end of this session. So thank you,
Hmm.
Mehdi, for this valuable session, and thank you everyone, all our Scrummies out there, for joining us today. We hope to see you in our next session. We hope you found it helpful and informative. And if you enjoyed the session, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to see you in our next session. Until then, take care. This is Sunil Sharma signing off along with Mehdi. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Thank you, Mehdi.